Hello to you as we're going to give you a quick understanding about can x-rays show a herniated disc. Now, over the years, I have literally heard of hundreds of people who have been through medical doctors as well as other kinds of physicians, and they've asked the question, my doctor says I have a herniated disc. And the question always asked is, how did he come up with that diagnosis? Hello, Lourdes. So as our notifications are going out worldwide, we will allow our chat room to come in and ask questions with each other. But the most important thing I want you to realize is the answer to this question is, can x-rays show a herniated disc? The answer is generally no. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and give you a potential exception to the rule, although in general, x-rays do not show herniated discs. Now, the reason why I say that, because many of our listeners, as well as people, thousands of comments that I've responded back to over the years, people would have said to me, my doctor says that I have a herniated disc. And I said, well, what type of tests were done to determine if you had a herniated disc? He says, did you have a CAT scan, an MRI, a myelogram, an x-ray? He says, well, I have an x-ray. By the way, I had 15 x-rays, and my doctor says I have a herniated disc. Well, the question here, I'm going to prove to you and show you and teach you and explain to you why you cannot make a conclusive diagnosis from a hard tissue or from an x-ray. Realize that x-rays are radiation. Radiation picks up hard density bone. If the bone is not dense, it won't pick up an image. So, hello, good evening, Sandy. Good evening, C. Roy, Janine, Zach, and Lourdes. I want to just go ahead and let you know that is a herniated disc right there, because we have something being compressed. Let's go ahead and take a little bit better look, guys, of what a herniated disc actually looks like. So we'll go into the integrity of the diagram of a human intervertebral disc. And basically what we're looking at here, this disc is composed of the outside fibers called an annular fibrosis, and the inside consisting of a nucleus. So that nucleus is like a gel, and that gel kind of moves side to side when we bend side to side. Let's go ahead and show you on a real model here. As I always show you my friend here, we explain this to you all the time, that in the front of the vertebrae, you have discs that are cushions, and these cushions act as shock absorbers. And the purpose of the disc, not only to act as a shock absorber, it helps to keep the vertebrae apart so the nerves, the delicate yellow nerves that come off of the spinal cord, these are called spinal nerves. So theoretically, you have 31 pairs of spinal nerves, but these spinal nerves control and regulate every single function in your body. So basically, if this is regulating your heart, your lungs, your liver, and it's regulating everything going on, if these discs become thinner, that we call disc degeneration or desiccation of the disc, or a herniation or a bulging of the disc, and you start affecting this nerve, that energy that's coming out of that nerve is kind of like you stepping on a garden hose trying to water the garden. You're blocking off water, but your body's blocking off life. So you can see here, you have the outside fibers, the annular fibers, and you have the inside nucleus, and that's why it's so important to stay hydrated. Let's take a step further. If we look at the load of nutrition, by the age of 20, we start getting like no vascularity to the disc. The vessels are like gone. There's like no vascularity. We're not having circulation. So the question here is, how do discs get circulation? How do they get nutrition? And how do they stay healthy? It's called the law of loading, a law of diffusion, the law of osmosis. In other words, if you do nothing, you just lay around, studies show that the people who had sciatica going down the leg with herniated discs who did nothing were people that were not healing. But the people that got up and moved around and put motion into the disc were healing quicker, and you must have loading on a disc. So the worst thing to do with a disc problem is nothing. Yes, if you're hurt, you may need to rest a day or two, but in general, you need to get up, you need to load that disc, because that's what puts the good nutrition into that disc area. Now, if you look here, I just want to let you guys know something, and ladies and gentlemen, if you are smoking, there's 4,000 different chemicals containing nicotine and toxins that will kill that disc. That will affect the nutrient absorption. It will affect the transportation of chemicals. It will affect the healing of the disc, And I will tell you that if people who are smoking, you're going to have unhealthy discs and you're going to have a lot of problems. So my advice for you, yes, is kick in that habit. Very important. So let's go ahead and look here, and we can see an X-ray here, and we can see a front view. We could see a thin or narrow disc, because here's an X-ray, and I'm going to show you MRIs. But this X-ray shows degeneration of the disc, and it shows how those vertebrae on the bottom where it says narrowed or thin disc, it shows how those vertebrae are coming together. Now, as those vertebrae are coming together, you have nerves that come off of both sides like this, right at that black level where the disc is. And if that area is compressed like a pancake, guess what? You're going to get irritation on those nerves. And if those nerves are coming off the lower back, it's going to affect the lower legs, called sciatica. Now, if you look higher, you have osteophytes. Osteophytes are spurs. Those are bone spurs. And obviously, as those osteophytes become bigger, they can affect the nerve as well. If you look all the way up on top, normal disc. Look at there's the integrity of the vertebrae, nice and smooth, the end plate going across, and that disc is nice and thick. So on the bottom there, we call that degenerative joint disease or degenerative disc disease, and that disc is actually getting compressed and irritated from that particular region. So I just want you to have a picture of that. Now here is a picture of a herniated disc, as we showed you right there. Now let's go ahead and give you a better understanding. And by the way, let's look at this right here. This is showing you a nerve that is being compressed in the lower back, affecting the sciatic nerve. The sciatic nerve goes down the back of the buttocks, down the leg, burning, tingling, numbness, cramping. That can come from a herniated disc or a bulging disc or disc degeneration. Now here is a lumbar MRI. An MRI is showing the disc integrity. Lumbar MRIs or MRIs of the neck or MRIs of anywhere in your body is going to show the continuity of the soft tissue. So in other words, the disc is not hard tissue. The disc is soft tissue. So therefore, the best resolution for a disc is an MRI. So if you just tuned in with us, I've said before that if you've taken x-rays and your doctor has said you have a disc, okay, from your x-ray, 90-something% of the time, he is guessing. Now, you see here, you can see the lower lumbar disc there. You can see normal disc. You can see degenerative discs. Now, let's go back to the x-ray and let's explain to you the potential exception of what I'm talking about so you can get a better understanding a little bit about how our body evolves and what happens as we grow up. So I'm going to look for this view here. Give me a second, please. Okay, this is this one right here. Let's go right below it. These are called Schmorl's nodes. Now, most of you have not heard of this. This is an x-ray, all right? Obviously, this is an MRI it's showing right here. But what you would see a similar view on the x-ray. Let's just look at the x-ray, the bone continuity. You can see that those little indentations on the bone, those little black specks above the disc, it's kind of going up like this, like little U-shaped indentations. That is potentially, okay, a herniated disc making its way, the pressure making its way as your bones were developed, or potentially as the area has been hurt or damaged, that it's showing you nuclear excrusions. They call them nuclear excrusions. It occurs commonly in the upper lumbar and the mid-thoracic area, and you can see those excrusions into the cortex of the bone. So when we look at this area here, it explains to you a little bit about Schmorl's nodes. You can go and Google this, by the way, and when you look at x-rays and you see these little indentations of this bone, they're saying that potentially that disc is protruding upwards from the compression that's making its way into the bone, and the bone is taken on it's transforming, it's changing into a different dimension as a result of the pressure from this chronic Schmorl's nodes. And you can see this area here, a little bit about the facts, more likely to occur in people 11 to 30 years of age. This is the cortical end plates of the bone. Let's show you over here. So this is the vertebral body. These are the bodies of the vertebrae. These are the discs, and these are the end plates, all the way up on top and the bottom, okay? So you have up here, you have on each side of the vertebrae, above and below, those are called end plates. So if I try to lift that disc up, you can see the inside of that end plate. So those end plates, when they're not smooth and you have ridging in there, that's potential involvement of a disc that potentially can be not quite seen, guaranteed, but it can give the physician an understanding, hey, listen, an MRI is indicative, or we have to rule it out. Now, one thing I want to show you now, we talked about, all right, we talked about herniated discs, okay? We talked about, let's go ahead and show you here. This is, let's say, a disc coming from the neck, and it can show you how it makes its way down into the shoulder, into the arm, into the hand, all right? We call that cervical radiculopathy, all right? Now, here you can see the lumbar spine. We showed you how that can make its way down into the lower back on the sciatic nerve, called lumbar radiculopathy. That's how they come up with this word, radiation of pain. So the other things I want you to look at, a little bit on these MRIs here. You can see on the bottom there, those are big, big, big herniations. You can see those big marks where those arrows are pointing. That's lumbar herniation. Now, that will not show on a X-ray. That will not show, okay? That's only going to show on an MRI. Here's another herniated disc, okay? Degenerative disc that we showed you already, all right? Here's another herniated disc, normal disc and a herniated disc. You can see the difference. This is good for you to look at because many of you have taken MRIs and you look at them and you really don't understand how to read them. So you can look at these pictures and have ideas, and you can see the compression of what is and what is not going on in there. Let me just see if there's any last things I wanted to leave you with. I wanted to keep this very, very simple. Again, here is another MRI showing you a massive L4, L5 herniation causing significant stenosis down in that lower back area here. And obviously the lower three discs are showing signs of decay. We call that degenerative joint disease, degenerative disc disease. And one of the most important things I wanted you to understand about MRIs is it shows you blackened areas. Blackened areas means that the disc is losing hydration. So one of the best things that we can do for herniated disc, guys and women, ladies and gentlemen, is that we need to drink a lot of fluids. When we become dehydrated, so do our discs. Our discs become dehydrated. So if you're suffering with disc herniations and you're not getting well and you're doing all your therapy and you're taking your anti-inflammatories, you're doing everything right, but you're not hydrating, you're not going to get well. Your discs need hydration. We talked about bone broth earlier or the other day. That bone broth is excellent for those discs. It's excellent for the discs. So you want to check in. I'm really big with this bone broth. The more research I've been doing, I tell you, it's really beautiful stuff. I want you to do some research. Check our other videos on that, and I think it will help you. Carol's asking, once a disc is degenerated, can you rebuild it? Yes, if the disc is not totally degenerated. If there's still continuity in the disc, and the disc is not calcified and it's not totally gone. In other words, the question here is if you have a disc that's degenerated and there's still continuity and there's still life in that disc, yes, the body can regenerate. Although, when something is compressed and down like a bald tire, can you make that bald tire thick like a new tire? No. So we're all about preventing degeneration, slowing down degeneration. No matter what we look, no matter what we think, or no matter what we do, we're working against gravity. Gravity's pushing us down like a vacuum. Our job is to slow down degeneration by doing the right things. CH states, hi sir, I have severe pain in the right trapezoid. You're talking about your right traps here. Please help me. Well, in this situation, you got to find out where it's stemming from, what you're doing, your occupation. We talked about forward head posture. I recommend CH to go check out my videos on cervical radiculopathy, forward head posture, and read those videos. I think and look at those videos. They should help you out a lot. Well, anyways, guys, I just wanted to make my point here today, and it just tells you the time flies away. But I want to thank all you guys for being in the chat room with us. And again, you know, I want to send blessings out to you and your family. Again, if you have questions, Facebook, Motivational Doc, that's the best place for me to respond back. I get hundreds of emails a day. So most important is that you stay well, become educated, and continue to be proactive. Much love to everyone. God bless.